recording is really important. It's not just about writing an awesome song and sharing it with your fans. It's about helping you get the gigs you want, being able to showcase your talent. And honestly, just sounding good. One good song can do more for you than 2 years of gigs. It's good to know how to do that for yourself, and it's not as difficult as you would think. Hi, I'm Draven Gray with The Unleashed Singer, where we use our over 50 years of combined experience as producers, songwriters, recording engineers, and performers to show you how to become the singer that you've always wanted to be. There's a lot of my students that have come to me asking, how do I make my recordings sound good? How do I take the recording of my singing and that actually sound good? Because this doesn't. I hear that a lot. And, I spent a very long time, it's been over 25 years as a recording engineer and a mixing engineer, back when I was coaching bands as well. And I have to say, recording is important. It really is important. I lead a lot of my singing students into recording because not only do you have something to showcase yourself and to help you get into bands, to help you get different gigs, but you also have a way to really show your fans and start to build a fan base with the recording, with that product that they can grab onto. And I'm saying that because there's a lot of singers out there that don't have a recording of themselves. There's a lot of bands that don't have recordings of themselves, and they think they just play more live gigs. Not necessarily. It's like, who was it? The Edge in U2 said, one good song can do more for you than 2 years of gigs. So recording is really important. And it's not just about writing an awesome song and sharing it with your fans. It's about helping you get the gigs you want, being able to showcase your talent. And honestly, just sounding good. And that, the recording itself. So that when you hear a bad recording, I guess it depends on the situation. If it's somebody playing guitar and singing in their bedroom, you don't have as much of an expectation as when they're trying to record something professionally to release, and everything in between. It's good to know how to do that for yourself, and it's not as difficult as you would think. Here are the 3 things you can do to make your vocal recording sound good. Okay, so number 1, are you listening raw? Are you listening to that raw track? Are you listening to that when you're recording? When you listen to it afterwards, it's weird, like I said. So that raw track needs a few things. It needs EQ, which can take a little bit to get used to and find your voice on the EQ spectrum if you stick an EQ plugin on it. It needs compression, which will even out the dynamics a little bit. And, the EQ makes your voice shine. The compression kind of keeps you from going super soft, super loud in parts, and then super soft again. It even set out a little bit. It compresses that signal just a little bit. Then you need reverb, just a tad. And, delay, reverb, whatever you want to put on it in the final recording. We'll get to that later, but just a little bit of reverb to kind of bring a room sound back to it. If you're recording with at least compression and reverb on it, you're going to sound way better to yourself. It's going to sound more like the room. Or take the cup off, take that off just a little bit. If you're using in-ears so you don't get bleed into the mic, take that in-ear out just a tad, so you can hear the room again. It'll make a huge difference. You'll feel free again. You'll feel like, oh, that's what I'm used to hearing. And you'll get better again. So there's a lot of things that play into that. But remember, it's EQ. So I have to say, the human voice sits around 250 hertz. Just if you look at an EQ, it's about 250 hertz is more body of the voice. Then you have 500 hertz is hollowness, which if you sound hollow and you hear too much of the room while you're recording, take a little bit of that out. 1 kilohertz is kind of like brassiness. So if you sound like a megaphone, that's where it's at. And the main parts are 250 hertz for body, around 2,000 to 5,000 hertz for, so 2 kilohertz, 5 kilohertz for presence, like more like you're getting louder when you turn that up. In that range, somewhere in that range is where you're going to hear your voice. And then sibilant, so it's those T's and S's, those are going to come through somewhere between 4 kilohertz to 7 kilohertz. Somewhere in there, you're going to be able to find that and just pull it out. pull out that whole that thing. If you don't use a de-esser, just pull that out. Pull that tiny little frequency out of the EQ. Above that, so above 7K, it's more air, so airiness of the voice. You might like that. So if you're going to EQ, just think every instrument has its own place, and the voice is 250 hertz, 2 kilohertz to 5 kilohertz, and then above 7 kilohertz. Those are the main areas you're messing with. If you're unsure of what they do, boost them a whole lot. Listen to what it changes in your voice. Take it down a whole lot, like take it out. See how that changes your voice. And somewhere around there is going to be where your voice shines the most. Okay? That's EQ. 250, 2 to 5K, and above 7K. It doesn't have to be difficult. If it comes down to it, hopefully your EQ has a preset for voice. It's a great starting point. And then add compression after that. So now you made your voice sound better. It fits with the music better because of how you EQ'd it, right? The compression's gonna even it out. Like I said, it squashes the signal a bit, so you're not all over the place, super loud, super soft. Usually 4-to-1 compression, maybe an 8-to-1 compression. Think those are your ratios. So 8-to-1 if you're rock. 8-to-1 means for every 8 decibels, those measures of volume level or sound level, every 8 decibels you go over the threshold, it squishes it down to 1. So 4-to-1 is for every 4 decibels you go above the threshold, it squishes it down to 1. So you got to find where that threshold is, set your ratio of 4-to-1, 8-to-1, depending on what you like and how even you like that sound. I would say set it to 4-to-1 and then mess with the threshold until it starts sounding a little compressed. Your attack and release in that, see, compression gets so complicated and it doesn't have to be. So attack, how fast does the compression start kicking in? Like, so do you have at the beginning of your voice and then it compresses the rest of the signal? That would be a slow attack. It waits a little bit. It's a little slow to come in. You have a fast attack where it compresses it from the very beginning. Okay, the release is the same idea. How long does it hold that compression until it lets it go? You can play with those things. You can watch videos on compression and using a compressor. That could help you get a better understanding of it. But for the most part, just think 4-to-1, 8-to-1 ratio. A 5, like just middle of the road with attack and release would be fine to start out with. And then set your threshold till it compresses the way you like it. Okay? It's not that hard. And again, if you have a good preset for it, just use the preset as a good starting point and tweak it a little bit from there. Okay, EQ. Made you fit in the mix. Compression. Made you not go all over the place with all of your dynamics in your voice. And then lastly, I would say reverb. Reverb delay. I have tricks with that, but just a little bit of reverb, not a lot. A little bit of reverb to bring back some of the room sound. It'll make it sit in the mix a little bit better too. And it'll sound more like you're used to it sounding. If you use too much, it's gonna sound like you're in a gigantic room when the rest of the music doesn't. So be careful with that. It's just a little bit of reverb. Now it sounds much better, okay? If you wanna dive into that stuff and look up vocal chains and mixing vocals and stuff, go for it. You can get a lot more in depth than what I just told you. So the third thing you can do is a reference mix. Okay, so a reference mix is when you take your song and then you get another song that kind of sounds like the mix you want. And I'm trying to talk about vocals exclusively here. So let's say you're singing to a backing track. Well, maybe you're singing a song that's already written. Use the original as a reference mix. If you're singing to your own track, use somebody else's reference mix to get the mix right. A song that's in the general vicinity of what you want to get in the ballpark of their sound, right? Okay, so then you go to the EQ, you go to the compression, you go to a little bit of reverb, maybe a little delay, and you try to make it sound a whole lot like that mix you're referencing. That does so much for your mix. It's amazing how much easier it is to mix when you have a reference than when you don't. Okay, there's so much more I could cover. I could create an entire course on mixing your voice alone, or help you set up a professional sounding vocal chain on a budget. You know, all the processing or plugins that you use between your mic and press and record, just in order to sound like a pro. So that's a vocal chain. All of that chain of plugins or the chain of hardware. And maybe I'll do that in another video. But I want you to have enough to get started without getting overwhelmed or feeling like you need to be a recording engineer. Start with EQ, 250, 2 to 5K, above 7K. There's your voice. Compression, 4 to 1, 8 to 1 ratio, middle of the road with both your attack and release, and just set your threshold until it compresses the way you like it. And then reverb, a little bit of reverb to bring back in a roomy sound, just a little bit to where it sounds a little bit more natural, maybe sits in the mix a little bit better. Not a whole lot. Very quickly, you'll notice a difference in how you sound.